Ollie was walking down the street one night, kind of near his apartment building, and all of a sudden he heard a scream. He looked, and the woman was, well, she was on fire. She was frantically patting out her hair, which was on fire. Ollie ran over and rushed to help. After they got the fire out, he said, "What happened? Are you okay?" She said, "I don't know what happened. I was just walking down the street minding my own business, and I felt something hit me. And then all of a sudden I was on fire, and I'm not quite sure. I don't know what, I don't know." They started to look around. Very quickly they saw that there was a burned up, it was kind of hard to tell what it was, honestly. There were definitely some sticks, and maybe some shreds of burned paper, and then a candle, or a little leftover, mostly burnt chunk of a candle anyway. And some of the sticks were kind of tied together, although the whole thing was crushed in addition to being burned. Well, I looked at it and later looked at it and said, "I don't understand. I see the candle, but what is the rest of this?" I said, "I don't know. Are you okay though? Do you need to go to like a hospital or anything?" She said, No, I think I'm okay. Thank you for your help. I don't know what this is going to do to my hair. I guess I'll wash it out and see what it looks like and go get a haircut. But if you figure out what this is, would you tell me?" I said, "Sure. Actually, it's got my curiosity up, and I'm a private eye, so I was going to kind of see what I could figure out." I said, "Oh, that's cool. My name's Kelly." I said, "Hi, I'm Ollie. Well, can I give you my number? You can call me and tell me, what you figure out. I'd really be interested to know what set me on fire." No, I smiled and said, "Sure." So Kelly wrote down her number on a piece of paper she had in her pocket, and Ollie took it. Then Ollie began to study, and she went on her way. And Ollie began to study this thing, the candles and the sticks. He found this piece of the paper that wasn't burnt. It was very, very thin paper, and kind of a pretty blue. It was just barely thicker than like a tissue, but more stiff than a tissue paper. Like the kind of blue your nose on, I mean. It reminded him of the paper that you used to stuff in the top of gift boxes when you're too lazy to wrap a present. And I thought, he was playing around with the sticks, pulling them this way and that, trying to see what it might have been. And he pulled it a certain way, and all of a sudden it kind of clicked. If he held it just right, the joints that remained, with the places where it was broken, it could, maybe, and then of course it must be, they made the shape of a box. The box was about, 8 or 9 inches tall, and then about 5 or 6 inches square. And then the candle looked like it was supported kind of in the middle of one side, one of the short ends. And I looked, and it seemed familiar. And he was just about to figure it out when he looked up, because he saw a fireball heading pretty much straight for him. He dove out of the way as it came crashing down to earth, and it didn't hit with a big crash. It was pretty light. But it came crashing down all the same, and it was on fire all the same. So I was glad that he dodged. He ran over to look at it, and that confirmed his suspicion. He realized what it was. It was a Chinese lantern. It was a Chinese lantern that didn't come crashing down to earth, but why? Usually they fly for miles, and then the candle goes out, and they sort of drift harmlessly and land somewhere. Why had these ones burst into flame? Where were they coming from? Well, I felt like he had a lot of questions and not a lot of answers, although the knowing that it was a some Chinese lanterns was, useful. So there was a bench kind of right there, and Ollie lay down on the bench. Lied down on the bench. Anyway, and he waited, trying to see if he could see where these things are coming from. And after about 5 minutes, there he saw one, not burst into flame yet. It rose up above one of the other apartment buildings, not the one I lived in, but another one. Came from kind of behind it, or the opposite side of it from Ollie anyway. Then all of a sudden, it shook and shuddered, and turned, burst into flame, and came crashing down. Well, thought Ollie, I know where I need to go next. So he went to the apartment building to see if he could get in. It wasn't a doorman or anything, though, and he didn't have the combination. He waited for a few minutes to see if somebody would come in or out, but nobody did. So with a sigh, Ollie started climbing. Ollie's a good climber, but bricks are a little tricky, even for an octopus. They don't really suction cup very well. So it took him a while. He saw one more paper lantern go down in flames while he was climbing. It was only about 7 stories, but still, it took him a while. Got up to the roof and looked around. It's just a roof. Wasn't anything remarkable at the roof. Wasn't anybody launching paper lanterns off the roof. There wasn't any, paper lantern killing laser beams on the roof. And he could look and he could see. There wasn't, I thought maybe there was a power line or something he couldn't see, or an antenna or something, but no. Clear skies. So Ollie waited. And after a couple minutes, another paper lantern came floating up. Ollie watched it as it rose up above the apartment building and then a little bit past the apartment building. Once again, it shuddered, it shook, it turned, it caught fire, and came crashing down. I could have sworn that he heard the faintest little, just a split second after the paper lantern first shuddered. But Ollie figured that this would maybe he could start off with solving the mystery of where they're coming from. So he ran over to the other side, the side that they were coming from, and looked down. There he could see, a couple 100 meters up the hill, not a very steep hill, in kind of a grassy field, there was a group of students. And he could see that they had built a whole bunch of these paper lanterns, maybe 50. And there they were, setting them up and diligently, one by one, releasing them. Some sort of school project or art project or science project, he didn't know what, but something was messing it up. He didn't know if they knew. He thought about running down and trying to talk to them, but he realized that they were further away than it looked. And he was in a good position to maybe figure out what was going on. Ollie got up on the highest point he could get. It was close to the side of the apartment building where these paper lanterns were mysteriously faltering. He looked and he waited. From there he could also see the students releasing them. So he watched as the students lit the candle on one and held it carefully as it rose from their hands. And gently, gently it rose up into the night sky. I could see a little more clearly now that even though it seemed like it was right on top of the apartment building, it was actually pretty high up above. It's about, 30 feet above the top of the roof. Now I watched this one. This one, though, behaved a little differently. It shuddered, but then it didn't turn or fall. And then, about a second later, I heard a little, and then it shuddered again, and this time it turned and caught fire and fell. And again, all I heard a little behind him. It was a flat roof. Not gravel, but just, tar. black tar. So Ollie got his flashlight out. He started looking around. Is there something on the roof? He'd heard that little noise twice. He looked around, and it was, it was a roof. There were some leaves and other debris on there. But then something caught the reflection of the flashlight. Two little things, in fact. Ollie went over to them. They were hard to see. They were very small. But if he moved the flashlight, they would, for just a fraction of a second, flash as they caught the flashlight. Ollie did that, and he zeroed in on them, getting ever closer every time he turned the flashlight, till he was right on top of them. He picked them up, and what they were two little metal balls. Quite small. Like BBs. And I took those back to the perch where he was sitting and thought about that for a second. BBs. Why would there be BBs up here? Why would BBs have landed here? And then it came to him. What if someone's shooting at the lanterns? Then he started to look around. Where could they be coming from? At first he looked down on the ground, but then he realized that would be a pretty weird shot. And plus, if he had been down there, since he had been down there, he would have noticed someone with a BB gun standing around near him. They would have had to be pretty much where he was before in order for them to hit the lanterns and then land on this roof. So he looked around some more. And he realized that across the street there was another apartment building. The roof, that one was only 6 stories, so the roof was 10, 12 feet lower. It was dark. It was hard to see. But I looked very carefully. And you could almost make out what looked like the shape of a person sitting in a chair. I squinted, but he couldn't quite see. But he had to know. Meanwhile, another lantern went down in flames while he was thinking about all that. I looked over back at the students, and they still had about 30 lanterns to go. So he climbed down the side of the building as quickly as he could. He found a drain downspout, like a rain downspout. And that let him get down a little more quickly. And he darted as quickly as he could, while still being kind of subtle. Across, there's some grass there, down the sidewalk, across the street to this other apartment building. This one, thankfully, was made of stone. A little easier to, and siding. Like the bottom layer was stone, and then it was siding. Much easier for Ollie to climb. So climb he did. As fast as he could. He didn't even try to go upstairs. He climbed up to the roof, but along the backside. He moved kind of back around to the backside as he came, because he was starting to have a suspicion. He got close to the roof. He slowed down, trying to be quiet. He very quietly snuck up over the edge of the roof and looked. There, in the silhouette of the night sky and the moon, he could see there was a person in a lawn chair, a person in a long chair with a rifle. Now all I had to think, carefully. It's dangerous to surprise someone with a rifle, even if it's just a BB gun. Especially someone who apparently can hit a moving target from several hundred yards away. Were they dangerous, or were they just playing a game? Ollie couldn't know, so he had to be careful. So rustling up all of his sneakiness, he came silently across the roof, inch by inch. Ollie had an advantage because the person with the rifle was focusing quite intently over at the area by the other apartment building, waiting for his next practice shot. As Ollie got close, a paper lantern made its way up. And the person picked up their rifle, took aim, and heard a click. Poof. Wasn't a particularly loud noise. Then he saw, over on the other side, over in the apartment building, the lantern turned, went down in flames. And he said, yeah, ha ha ha. Man, I'm having good averages here. I wish there was somebody else seeing me. All in one quick motion, Ollie leapt, grabbed the rifle and pulled it down, pointing down and away from him. And said, there is somebody watching you. I said, what are you doing? Let go of that. I'll let go of it if you promise not to shoot me. I said, shoot you? Why would I shoot you? I don't shoot people. Gosh, who do you think I am? Some kind of monster? I said, I don't know what you are, other than some guy on a roof with a gun shooting off into the distance. I said, that's fair. All right, here. I took his hand off of the trigger and set the gun down, with Ollie still holding the end. I said, there, does that convince you I'm harmless? You're the one with the gun, not me. Ollie laughed. I said, all right. That's fair. What are you doing up here? The guy said, well, I mean, I could ask the same of you, but I saw these paper lanterns going up, and I was wondering, am I a good enough shot to hit them from all the way across here? It turns out I am. I've missed a few, but my average is really pretty good. I mean, none of them have gotten all the way past me, but a couple of them I had to take 2 or 3 shots to get them. But it's pretty fun. It's like an old video game. It's like target practice. Anyway, I'm almost done. I'm almost out of air in my cartridge. It's an air-powered BB gun. And I didn't bring up any extra cartridges. I should have. But, you know. I said, well, the thing is, I think you might be kind of ruining what the paper lantern people are trying to do. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, these things can fly for miles and miles and miles. And they made a bunch of them, but I'm sure they'd rather see them fly off into the sunset rather than see them get, a couple 100 feet away and then burst into flame. I said, I guess I hadn't thought about that. I said, yeah. Kind of thought maybe you didn't. But, now I feel bad. I didn't mean to ruin their whole thing. I said, I don't think you ruined their whole thing. I started off over there and I could see where they're launching them. They've got a bunch left. They've got more left than they've gone through so far. I think you can call this a success. You've proven you've got a great aim. If you stop now, they can still have their fun too. The guy said, all right. You make a good point. I don't have to go over to apologize or anything, do I? I said, that's up to you. That's up to you. And really, I'm not directly involved at all. I'm not part of the lantern group. But I think you've had your fun. You gotta let them have their fun. I said, you're right. Thanks for coming up here. I'm glad somebody got to see how good of a shot I am, but also thanks for stopping me from ruining somebody else's night. And that was Ollie in the case of Fire from the Sky.